Welcome back to 360 Community Sports. I'm Greg Bichero, and with me tonight is James Dotson. Our good friend Alex could not be here tonight due to other commitments that were just a bit pressing on his end there. So James and I hopefully will carry the load here without our faithful compatriot in Alex. How you doing over there, James?
I'm doing all right, Greg. How about you?
Just enjoying that winter thaw, 62-degree weather, and just gives me the feeling of baseball season just coming around the corner here, you know. But
It's nice to finally have some warmth in the air, not having to run outside with a heavy winter coat on.
oh, I know, it's great. Hey, speaking about great though, looking about here, we did our National Letter of Intent Day show about 2 weeks ago, but we failed to talk about some local talent here that had signed on with some other schools somewhat locally. And I wanted to introduce some of these people here on our show here, kind of talk a little bit about them, one of which is Mr. Matt Vogel, who was a senior tight end for Mohawk High School. And he made a verbal commitment to play for the University of Akron, and he was the lone Division I recruit on National Signing Day to commit to the University of Akron. When I say the lone Division I recruit, the lone Division I recruit out of Lawrence County itself. So talk a little bit about Matt Vogel here. And also we have Travis Karrenbauer, who's an offensive lineman for Elwood City, Lincoln. He signed with Seton Hill University Division II school, which competes in the West Virginia Intercollegiate Athletic Conference. Say that three times twice. That didn't sound right. Three times twice. Anyway. And we also have Josh Geisler, a teammate of Travis's, who is an defensive lineman for the Wolverines, and he's going to Oberlin College in Ohio, which is a Division III school that competes in the North Coast Athletic Conference. What's really impressive, though, about all three of these players, Matt Vogel especially, he's 6'4", 245 pounds, caught 21 passes for 276 yards, basically averaged 13.1 yards per catch. And he had 5 touchdowns for the Mohawk Warriors and recorded a team high of 11 sacks as a defensive end. So he's basically a pretty much all-around player itself. You have any thoughts on this one here, Jay?
He looks like a solid ball player. I mean, you're talking averaging 13 yards a catch as a tight end is one thing. As a tight end coming out of a smaller school system in Mohawk, I mean, they're not exactly tiny, but they're no AAA or Quad A passing powerhouse. So that's just impressive in and of itself. But then to be able to play both sides of the ball, 11 sacks on defense, he can go to Akron and he could play tight end, he could play defensive end, he could possibly switch to an outside linebacker. There's lots of possibilities. Sky's the limit for this kid.
Yeah, you know, at Akron, I think really got a good deal with him. I mean, this was a kid that had been considering some smaller schools such as Villanova, New Hampshire, Bucknell, Holy Cross, and Slippery Rock, and the Akron Zips stepped up to the plate, and I think he'll get some national exposure here with Akron, and he could probably help solidify the Akron program.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think national exposure, not only for himself, but for the Lawrence County area. You don't get very many D1 football players to come out of this area. And to be able to make a verbal commitment to Akron, and we'll be seeing him playing on Saturdays here in the next couple of years, that's real impressive. Good for Vogel.
Yep. And Travis Karrenbauer. Now, Karrenbauer helped pave the way for the Wolverines to advance to the playoffs for the first time since 2000. And Karrenbauer played guard on offense and tackle on defense. This is a big boy. He's 6'4", 320-pound senior. And that's just an anchor there on the line on both sides. for Elwood City there, and he's definitely going to be a definite plus there for the Seton Hill University.
Uh, to get that kind of size going to a D2 program like Seton Hill, I mean that's you don't see many pro linemen who are that sort of size. So if this guy's got any sort of athletic ability, he's going to be an absolute force down at Seton Hill, and he I'm assuming he'll probably be a guard with that size, but he could probably play tackle too, with the athletic ability that he has. And who knows? Nowadays, you got as many players coming out of D2 and D3 schools making runs to the pro, a la Pierre Garçon, that anybody can make the big leagues if they get the right showing. So you could be hearing some things from Karen Bauer, and you could be hearing his name when we're talking about an NFL draft in a few years.
Yeah, Karen Bauer made the first team with the Midwestern Athletic Conference top 22. The kid's a very good athlete, understands what it takes to become the best he can be, according to his coach, which is Don Phillips over there in Elwood City. Another person that we need to talk a little bit more about would be Mr. Geisler, Josh Geisler, who was an honorable mention to the Midwestern Athletic Conference top 22 team. He was honorable mention on offense. This guy, according to his coach, Don Phillips, has a tremendous work ethic and tremendous strength about himself as well. But yeah, you made an interesting point, though, about the smaller schools getting a lot of NFL talent, and a lot of the teams out there are looking toward the smaller programs, as we see players out there who come out of smaller programs having success out there on the big stage itself. As you mentioned, Pierre Garçon, Ben Roethlisberger came from a very small program out of Miami University of Ohio, made the national stage, and of course, well, we all know about Ben.
Yeah, it's you never know what you're going to get in a player. I mean, you have some players go into these smaller schools who just are frankly overlooked in high school, and it's no fault to them, just they didn't get the attention that they deserve, or they just show up at college and they start performing really well. But then you also have situations where a player is just that good, but maybe not the best around, but they're a really good athlete, and they know that to get attention and to get playing time, it'd be better for them to go to a smaller school. So you get someone like Pierre Garçon, who was a very highly recruited wide receiver, who ends up choosing to go to Mount Union College, ends up being a 4-year starter, putting up unsightly numbers for his 4 years, and now making a big name for himself in the pros. And it's something about programs, too, because you're looking at Mount Union. Cecil Shorts is a wide receiver senior at Mount Union who's entering the draft. He just got a NFL Combine invite. He is insanely quick, a 4.3, 4.4 40 time. He is actually listed currently as the number 4 wide receiver, number 58 overall for the 2011 draft. So you may be seeing more names like Cecil Shorts coming out here, where player doesn't appear on the radar on Saturdays because he's not in one of the top 25 programs, not even in Division One. But that doesn't matter. They're still getting the recognition enough to be able to possibly be a first or early second round pick.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. And who would have ever thought little old Mount Union College over there in Ohio being a force in the NFL? But hey, things happen, and things happen for a reason. And my hat's off to everybody here who has made their commits here. And on the high school basketball front coming up here, James, I understand you've got some knowledge about some of our local teams going into the basketball playoffs.
Yeah, Greg, we have a bunch of interesting matchups here for the WPIAL playoffs. Neshannock High School in boys AA drew a 10 seed and will have a preliminary round matchup against Brownsville, the winner to play against Wilkinsburg. It is very likely that Neshannock, should they beat Brownsville, which I think they should, and then they have a pretty favorable matchup against Wilkinsburg, who is the lowest team to have a preliminary round bye. That if they can get past them, they would play number 2 ranked Beaver Falls in the quarterfinals, which would be a very intriguing matchup. Coach Corey has a pretty good ball club going right now. You have Brandon Marinelli, who's averaging over 20 points a game for them. You have a pretty tall kid in Nick Graziani, who's hunkering down low, being a force both on the offensive defensive glass. But then one of the most amazing things for Neshannock this year has been the play of a true freshman, David Burks. He just came in. Well, he's been playing all year, but he's improved every time coming out. And last game, one of the stars for Neshannock, John Sansone, was out with an injury. Burks came in off the bench and scored team high 21 points. So it's a total team effort going on for Neshannock, and they have a very good possibility to advance far in the WPIAL playoffs with the team and the matchups that they're looking at.
Now, you mentioned also Beaver Falls. And Beaver Falls always puts together a tough team. There's a strong possibility if Neshannock passes these next 2 tests that they could be facing a very tough Beaver Falls team. Do you have a little insight on Beaver Falls right now?
Just that it's a miracle that they weren't the number 1 seed. I don't know how they didn't get named number 1 seed. They have a 19-5 overall record, which is a little bit skewed because they played up against AAA teams early on in the year. So to have a section championship under their belts with 4 of their 5 losses, I believe, were against AAA or Quad A teams in the early going of the year, they're a team that I would not want to play in a million years.
Yeah, Beaver Falls has always been a tough foe out there, and that will truly be, I think, the true test for Neshannock if they get this far. And from all sides, it looks like Neshannock is a very physical team, though. I mean, they take it to most of the teams pretty tight here, so.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all it takes is, being physical, being strong with the ball, going after all the loose balls. Sometimes that's what it takes to beat a more talented team like Beaver Falls.
And also playing smart and staying out of foul trouble as well. So now,
see what happens.
Some other matchups that are out there. We have, looks like Jeanette versus Aliquippa.
Jeanette, yes. Aliquippa has to play a preliminary round matchup against Riverview. Aliquippa is the 11 seed, Riverview the 22 seed. But if Aliquippa wins that game, which they definitely should, you have a pretty intriguing matchup in Jeanette Aliquippa. So that's going to be a 6-11 matchup to possibly look forward to. And then you also have Elwood City, a number 14 seed, playing in a preliminary game against number 19 Springdale, with the winner to play Monison. So Elwood City with an 11-10 record. Springdale 11-11 looks like that's going to be an even matchup on Saturday at North Allegheny High School. So,
wow, lots and lots of excitement here coming up here over the next couple of weeks here, and definitely some key games to look forward to heat up the end of winter here itself.
Yep, it's now that everything's warming up, the matchups are heating up on the court. We're gonna have some very exciting basketball, I think, here in the WPIAL playoffs. Switching over to AAA boys, the Newcastle Red Hurricane come in with a 16-6 record. They are the number 4 seed. They will play the winner of preliminary round game Trinity and Mount Pleasant. That game will be on February 22nd. Newcastle is an interesting team because they have only 1 senior on their roster. So to be able to put together this type of year with a very young team overall has been rather impressive for the Red Hurricane. And should they win, they would play the winner of Highlands and Central Valley, which is a 5-12 matchup. So again, either way, that 5-12 matchup features 2 teams that are 15-14 win teams. So 2 more good matchups, and it looks like a good matchup for the Red Hurricanes because of their speed.
Yeah, the Highlands team is a very tough team over there. with their record, they're a very physical team, from what I understand.
Yeah, and don't know much about Central Valley, but they've put up a 13-8 record in their conference. So that's something to be accredited for. And to have a 12 seed, hey, you know about 5-12 matchups. It may not be the NCAA tournament, but I still don't trust a 5-12 matchup.
No, no, 5-12 matchups universally are ones to kind of look at with an arched eyebrow. No doubt about it.
Let's switch over to Double A for the women. Neshannock High School drew a number 20 seed. They will play a preliminary round game against Freeport. Um, this is an interesting matchup, though. They look to be the underdog, except that they beat Freeport early on in the season in their tip-off tournament. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. Neshannock went through a tough skid down the stretch. They lost 4 out of 5 games at one point, and it's been interesting for them to turn it around their last 2 games to be able to finish with the number 3 seeding from the section. And oh, sorry, go ahead, Joe.
That's fine. Who are the standouts right now for the Shannock at this time frame?
Neshannock really is an all-around good team. They have 6 seniors on their roster right now, and all of them get good playing time. The main ones, you have Erica Warvell, a forward who is actually leading the team in three-pointers, averaging around 18 points a game. You have Chelsea Kaufman, who is a point guard who never commits a turnover in her life. And then you have the rest of the team. You have Marianne Piatek, you have Ashley Patton, you have Tara Richardson, Dominic Sheldon. You have 6 solid players. They've been playing together since 5th grade, according to Marianne Piatek. I talked to her yesterday. Said that when you've been playing together for so long, you know who's going to be shooting, you know who's strong defense, you know who's going to be on and when somebody's not working well. And when you have that kind of chemistry, and you've been playing together for so long, especially even in varsity, you've had Warvell and Kaufman have been starting since their freshman year. So you have that sort of chemistry on the court. It makes Lancers a tough out no matter what they're ranked, no matter who they're playing.
Yeah, you have that sense of anticipation out there where you know exactly what your teammates are going to be doing, and that almost ends up being like a sixth sense of sorts. Now, of these 6 seniors, are there any possible college prospects for the Lady Lancers?
Um, it makes it difficult because Warvell is probably their most talented player, but she doesn't have the size to be a forward in a college program, I don't think. She could possibly switch to a small forward, but I don't know if she has the quickness to be a guard, which is about size-wise where she would, height-wise, what she would be in a college program. Chelsea Kaufman, I think possibly the same issue. She could definitely play local ball. She's a gifted athlete, and I think she could definitely make a splash as a point guard in a Division III, Division II school. Don't know for sure if anybody's looking at either of these 2 girls, but those would be my 2 guesses for them.
I think as the high school playoffs continue and we reach toward the end of the high school season, this would be definitely something to look forward to see where the Lady Lancers are going to land as far as college and college ball itself. So as well as the rest of the players, both boys as well as the girls out there. So
Yeah, definitely. And then real quickly, AAA for the WPIAL women. Newcastle pulled out the number 2 seed as the 2-time defending champions. Not too surprising that they had another great year. They really, though, had an interesting year of it. Kaylin Waters, their top player from the year before, has been out since the 4th game of the year with a torn knee ligament. So they've been playing without their best player, and now in the last game of the year, they lost Christina Talbert, who was averaging over 17 points a game. She hurt her knee. So don't know what the status is on Talbert, but if they're losing, they've already lost Waters for the year. If they lose Talbert too, it could be an interesting finish for Newcastle. They're going to have a bunch of their other young stars step up and deliver in a big way for them in the absence of their 2 teammates.
it's being a number 2 seed could almost be a curse for them at this time frame.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's they missed out the number one seed to Indiana. They wound up playing the winner of Mars and Laurel Highlands. The having the bye will help if Talbert is able to come back to the lineup, give her a few extra days to get back. But the fact that Mars and Laurel Highlands will be they'll be active. They'll have just played a game. They'll still be in the groove. I can definitely see some rust coming off of Newcastle, not just because of the extra days off, but because of the lack of time together, having to bring in another player off the bench who may not be getting as much time as normal.
Wow. Well, definitely something to look forward here to, no doubt about it. Well, James, thank you so much for that overview on high school basketball, both AA and AAA, men's and women's high school basketball there. And definitely there's going to be some thrilling games, especially if Neshannock gets to play Beaver Falls out there. And of course, we're all watching the Neshannock women out there as well. Uh, James, as the weather improves, and actually, I saw the first robin of spring out there, and it actually had a worm as well. Which leads me to believe that baseball season is right around the corner. And James, what do you think now about baseball season coming up? Do you have any predictions or picks right now? I know this is going to be a subject for our show down the road here, but just kind of tickling the old brain there to see basically what you see out there for high school baseball. And we're going to see any perhaps repeat champions out there.
Well, it's definitely nice to finally be getting warm. Teams probably went outside for the first time today to do their workouts. So I'm sure that's going to get all the players excited, all the coaches excited. Games will be starting here, within 3 weeks now, probably.
About mid-March.
It's that time of year. Hopefully, there's not a big delay like they always seem to have when I was playing. It always seemed like, yeah, we start March 5th, March 10th, but the first game wouldn't end up being played until March 25th when the ground was still covered in snow still. So, but as for who I look at coming out strong, I think Neshannock is going to be another dominant force. They made the WPIAL championship game against Sarah Catholic last year in Class A, and ended up losing 3-1 in a first round PIAA matchup. But I think one of the main strengths that they're going to have this year is their pitching. Alex Stripmatter, as a sophomore last year, was a absolute phenom on the mound. So if he performs half as well as he did last year, I think Neshannock could go for a pretty solid run again. They have a couple other solid possibilities on the mound. You have Chris Sangaris, you have Anthony Van Emmen. Van Emmen being a left-hander, which would be a nice mix-in for Coach Kirkwood and the Lancers. So I think Neshannock could be a good look as making a run. Rochester's always been strong over the last couple years. They have a good shot in the local area. I think still though, teams like Sarah Catholic are the ones to beat. They have so much raw talent on their team, and that if they perform well as a team, they keep their wits about them. That Sarah Catholic is still, to me, the team to beat every year.
Okay, James, we're going to hold you to those predictions there, but in future shows we're going to be talking about basically an analysis of pretty much all the teams throughout the area, both the Mercer County area as well as in the Lawrence County area. We'll be breaking this down and talking a little bit about preseason high school baseball. Until then, I'm Greg Fischero with James Dotson, and this is 360 Community Sports.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid.